Hello and welcome to the Player 4 podcast. Tonight, we will be talking about things and stuff, and I am one of your hosts, Tristan, aka Shagrazier, on the Rooster Teeth website.
I am one of your other hosts, Alex, aka Chaos Black 21.
I am Malachi, aka Tsukihima.
Did I mention I'm not editing this?
Yeah.
Somebody better edit this.
Nope. And I'm Joseph, aka J Dunlap, and I'm another one of your hosts. Isn't that
Yep.
what we're doing today?
Malachi, I did the same thing. I barely caught myself.
Well, it's because we wanted to kind of go with Tristan's theme of, that voice and the and stuck in my head trying to think of like how to say.
Yeah, I was like, I can't remember. Do I say my name first and then my username? I can't remember.
I never realized I had friends who could forget their own names until I started a podcast with them. You learn a lot of things about people in podcasts.
What are we learning about today, though?
We are learning about the fact that you guys can't remember your names. It's sad.
Oh,
Also,
I'm disappointed
we
you
already
didn't use
learned
this
that.
segue.
We are also learning about Infinity War today. Because we finally all have watched it. That movie, that big movie with the big stars that went out and played the people and did the things on the screen.
Tristan finally saw it.
Yes. Tristan finally saw the movie.
Took him forever.
It did. What are you going to do about it?
Talk about it.
All right, then let's do that.
So I have some thoughts on it, but that's going
Yes,
to be
we are
until
starting off with-
later.
Then let's let Joseph explain how he wants this all to run, because
Yes.
he's got a plan. He is the man with the plan.
Yeah, I thought he was going straight into the thing because he's
No.
first.
Don't do that. It's Joseph,
no.
my man.
No, it's me. So, spoiler-free thoughts is the first thing we're doing. So, if you're listening, you're like, crap, it's a spoiler cast. No, it's fine. You can listen for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on certain factors. I remember this section of our spoiler cast for Star Wars Last Jedi lasted for like half an hour. But we're doing spoiler-free thoughts and impressions. It's not near as structured as Last Jedi was, where I think we had 2 points we all made, and then we discussed it, and then we moved on to the next person. We're just going to go Malachi, Alex, me, Tristan, to share our thoughts, spoiler-free and impressions of Infinity War, and then we'll go straight from Tristan into spoiler talk. Tristan will give the disclaimer, and a free discussion where we'll wrap up around 40 minutes. No editing, no cuts. All right, Malachi, go.
It's a terrible idea, Joseph. So for me, I really enjoyed the movie. It was very action-packed, and it was very pretty. So I enjoyed the whole movie. I can see why they did all the things they did. Didn't really hate everything they did. Also didn't like look too deep in it also. So that's where today I'll be digging in with my three amigos to...
Yeah, sink your teeth into this film.
Yeah. So
I want to
overall...
hear some good review.
So overall, without any spoilers, there was quite a few parts that I did enjoy, which we'll do during the spoiler part, and I liked it quite a bit.
Okay.
I'm not good at doing non-spoiler stuff, so there's my impressions.
I have to spoil, guys.
Yeah.
God.
So I enjoyed Infinity War. I thought it was very pretty, and I liked the plot that they had for Thanos, and there are some things I didn't quite like about the movie that I will wait for later to discuss. But overall, I give it 2 thumbsticks.
Right on. I also give it 2 thumbsticks. And my impression, spoiler-free, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a mix of a few just forgettable movies, a few genuinely good films, and the rest were good enough. And when I say that, I mean franchises like this, in Star Wars as well, have this issue where you're so focused on making a movie that fits in the canon and does adequate fan service and makes this happen here and gets this here and develops this character, that then they're not genuinely enjoyable films like we would expect from a standalone film where we really have high standards. We're like, oh, well, the plot had so many holes in it, I'm not going to get into it, that sort of thing. And we end up with a film that's good enough. It does the things it's supposed to do in the franchise. And that's about it. A movie that comes to mind for that would be Age of Ultron was barely good enough and really just achieved some goals. And I felt bad for Joss Whedon because it burned him out to have to do all the things he had to do. So we get to Age of Ultron, and this one is not just good enough. This one is a genuinely good movie. And
you mean Infinity War?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Infinity War was genuinely good, and there's a lot of reasons why, but mostly it juggled all the characters really well, and we knew exactly what was at stake, and it tempered every scene. We weren't just sitting there watching a film. We were actually, I'm not even going to say we were invested, because that's a cheap thing to say. Of course we're invested. We like the films, but we really knew what was at stake, and it sort of changed the way in which we watched the film. It caused an active viewing experience. What about you, Tristan?
So for me, spoiler free, I have to say I'm quite there with Joseph in that the film was good. I enjoyed it. But I didn't feel that it hit all the notes that it could have, especially given that it is part of a sequence, you might say, of several films where we've had it built up, had all these characters built up and developed a relationship with them. So you come into the film knowing, well, they don't have to do backstory stuff on any of these guys. We've had, 20 odd films meeting them already. But now, and I'm going to be borrowing some wording from my friend Sam, just so he knows I'm not stealing his argument, I'm agreeing with him. I would say that my biggest problem with the film, spoiler free, is that not enough time was spent with the characters, the not Thanos characters interacting with each other, which that should have been an easy cash in on character personalities and things. But again, like Joseph said, it achieved the plot goals of establishing the bad guy, establishing the stakes, taking enough away that you're invested to see how things get resolved. And one thing I thought it did well was take some time to try and explain how the bad guy can come to be the bad guy and decide this is what must be done, without being a person who's just like, yes, I do evil things for the sake of evil because evil, evil, evil. So that was something that I appreciated about it. That being said, I have more to say about that in the spoiler portion of it. But I would say it's a good and entertaining film, but it could have done more to develop the relationships between the hero characters, and I would have done some of the motivations of the bad guy differently. But otherwise, it was a decent film. Is that good? Is that spoiler free enough?
Yes, it is. And you get to do the transition.
All right. So that means I get to do the disclaimer. Please, viewers, understand that the next portion of this podcast is going to contain major spoilers for the plot and characters of Avengers: Infinity War. If you have not seen this film or do not wish it to be spoiled, please stop listening now. Come back later after you've seen the film and enjoy our discourse on what we saw on the film. So right into it. My biggest problem, I would say, with the film, no longer spoiler-free, so spoiler alert, again, was that they were trying to justify genocide. They spent an extremely large amount of time with Thanos, exploring Thanos' backstory and his relationships with his own people and the people he destroyed throughout the years, to say, well, obviously the only way that I can solve the problem of a finite number of resources with an infinitely expanding universe is to kill everyone. Half of everyone. Kill half of everyone. And it's like he's sitting there going, I am a benevolent, amazing person, and people should think me an immaculate god for preserving life in the universe. I mean, I'm the one making the hard decision. I am the one with the will and the resolve to kill everyone. And it's going to make everything better because then there'll be enough resources. And it's like, okay, one thing, you're trying to justify genocide. You're trying to walk out, kill everyone, and say, look how good I am for killing everyone. 2, it's a really stupidly temporary fix. Like, you kill half of everyone, and within, I'll be generous, 50 years, you've got this problem again as everyone just begins repopulating. 3, Thanos is supposed to be a very intelligent person, like, smarter than Tony Stark. A really smart guy who thinks things through and comes up with, incredible battle strategies and intellectual solutions to these problems. And yet he couldn't fathom using the Infinity Gauntlet to create resources instead of just destroy people. I mean, there's probably better solutions than that even, but that's just right off the top of my head. How about instead of killing people, we make more resources? So I'm going to hand it off after that. I've obviously got more to say, but I wanted to start with that one. My big problem.
They also tried to show B that he does feel sadness because he states, it's like, oh, you do or don't realize, or I let you know, is like, I have given up a lot to do this.
Yeah. What did it cost you? Everything.
So they tried to show him being sad with that.
Yeah.
Sort of pretend sad. It's like, dude, I mean, you're giving up a lot. Oh, that's horrible. But you're also taking away a lot from everyone else.
Yeah.
But it's important to protect everyone else.
Right. So I like Tristan's points because on the surface level, you would say, well, yeah, that's the point of establishing the villain, so he's not the run-of-the-mill villain that MCU suffers from. But I think the issue, and it's what Tristan was getting at here, is no one else was really given permission to disagree with him. So we were presented with his viewpoint over and over and over on the screen, and anyone who disagreed, he would just dismiss. And part of that has to do with his infallibility physically. Mentally, he's not that smart, really. Like, we're supposed to believe he's smart, I guess, but mentally, he doesn't show an ability to know much of anything. He's just a big old brute who can beat up the Hulk with 2 Infinity Stones. So physically, he's just so infallible, it almost makes it feel like...
Might makes right.
Yeah, it just sort of feels like might makes right. That he's going to win just because they need him to be more powerful than everyone else, and he beats up the Hulk with no problem in the beginning of the movie. So it's like, where do we go from here? Who's going to actually beat him? No one. And so that leads to being sort of shoveled his viewpoint over and over to the point that no dissenting opinion really makes its way onto the screen, except you're a madman, you're a murderer, and all that. No one actually debates with him.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think he had the second stone on his glove at the time, but he did have one of the most important stones, the Stone of Power, so...
Yeah. He gained the Space Stone after he beat up the Hulk.
Yeah, but he did have the Power Stone in the glove, which is the Power Stone.
Which was another thing that was odd to me. I actually had to ask and say, did I like miss an end scene in a film or something where he took the Power Stone? Because I'm pretty sure the last time we saw that was they were depositing it, but the Guardians of the Galaxy were depositing it back on the planet that was defending it. And then there's just this like throwaway line where I think it was Thor just says, "No, he stole that from the planet those guys put it on last week." It's like,
the Nova
okay, I'm glad you knew that because none of the rest of us did.
Yeah, there was no scene for it.
How did he know that?
Just that line.
Yeah, I know. How did he know that?
Because I'm assuming that because the movie basically starts when they've already taken over the ship, pretty much destroyed it, killed half the people or whatnot. And so most likely he said it to Thor, like, yeah, I got this Power Stone from Xandar just a little while ago, and then I came across you.
I mean, maybe, but does Thanos really seem the person to say something like that? I think that Thor would have noticed, oh yeah, he's got a purple stone already, and he could
But Thor
Thanos
wouldn't have known where the stone is, though.
Right.
So he had to have gotten told.
He had to,
Thor
but it's just a weird. I guess I just find it a weird.
Thanos would have told him.
Maybe Thanos is an expository
Or
villain, but he gets
um,
this power stone. I can no longer be stopped. You should just stay down and let me go about my business. But he was
his
like, with this
like,
power stone that I stole from Xandar last week.
well,
Well,
his groupies could have said it too, because that guy liked to talk a lot.
Oh my God, yeah, that's not fair. That's not. You're not wrong about that. But I just call him the sycophant because that's what he is.
a key part that we've seen in that whole thing with all Thor's people on the ship getting killed was our buddy from that controlled the Rainbow Bridge. I forget the character name. Heimdall. Yeah. He could have seen it because he has that power all the time. He could have seen Thanos happened to see Thanos destroying Xandar.
It's possible. That actually does make me want to say something about Heimdall, though. Heimdall has the ability to summon the Rainbow Bridge apparently anywhere he pleases. And he summoned the Rainbow Bridge and got Hulk off of the ship. Why didn't he sweep away, like, all three? Why didn't he take himself, too? I mean, like, if he can summon it anywhere at any time, why didn't he just be like, Rainbow Bridge here, and take out, Thor, Loki's body?
Was Thor restrained at that point? Because it might be that he couldn't get him because he was already restrained. And
I don't know. I don't remember if he was restrained at the time, and even if he was, the Rainbow Bridge seems to kind of, like, dematerialize you a little bit, but maybe it doesn't. But even still, like, there goes the Hulk. It's like, well, for one thing, why are you deciding that the Hulk is a better life to save than Thor's? Because Thor's your best friend, and you only just watched the Hulk smash the crap out of everybody at this big fight during the Ragnarok plot. I just didn't understand why he didn't send Thor too.
Well,
so that the ship explodes.
He knows that. If he wasn't able to send Thor, he knows that the Hulk is related to the Avengers on Earth, and he knew he would tell them.
Yeah, I mean, I get saving the Hulk. I just don't get not saving Thor or Loki's body. Or, himself, even. And the other thing is that then Thanos, damages the ship to the point that it explodes and leaves using the Space Stone. And this was after he killed half of everybody. So now he's killed all of everybody. The only one who survived was Thor. And the only reason he survived is because the Guardians happened along and crashed into him.
Which brings up one of the things I don't like, and that's they didn't have the Valkyrie in it. But that's just me. No, but I thought she was a good character, a good new character that they brought in Ragnarok. And it was just like, all right, she's here for one movie. That's it.
Bye-bye. I mean, maybe they couldn't get her on contract, or maybe they just decided. Maybe somebody had already written, this film and decided they didn't have a spot for Valkyrie.
It's certainly possible, but I mean, it's just one of those times where it's like people are clamoring for like these great female characters, and I thought she was a great female character, and then she's not in anything after that.
Well, as Malachi was pointing out when we were talking yesterday, maybe she'll be a surprise new challenger in the second film now that they've lost everybody. And they need to bring in some new heroes to save the day.
With the depth of the actual Marvel universe in the comics, characters like Captain Marvel and a whole host of others apparently can go toe-to-toe with Thanos. So maybe that's the idea, is now with half of the main characters gone, they can dig deep and find other characters to try and help. Maybe that's the intent. But my issue with the whole Valkyrie and destroying the ship kind of thing is, okay, yeah, it shows that the Russo brothers have balls to start off the movie by completely obliterating the survivors of a previous movie. But that wasn't their movie. Thor was not their franchise. And it felt like a collaborative story where someone writes an entire chapter establishing characters, and then the next person in their chapter has an all-powerful bad guy kill all of them. It's like, well, what am I going to write about now?
Yeah. I mean, they kind of did that to all of them. Like, everybody who was brought together for this that had their own little sets of films devoted to them, or single films in some cases. Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Black Panther. They were all the ones that did it at the very end.
Well, let's not fool ourselves.
Yes,
I know. Guardians have another movie.
Back.
Spider-Man has... They're all coming back. But
Yes.
we don't know that everyone's coming back. We just know for certain that everyone who dissolved is coming back.
Yes.
Because too many of them have franchises still going on.
Too many of them are. They don't understand how to make loss meaningful. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If it had been characters that didn't have going franchises, we would have believed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I wish they would have been a little bit more ballsy on, is the actual, because you see Loki die and Gamora died, and that's basically it. The other people who quote unquote die are the ones that just get evaporated. I wish there was a few more legitimate
death.
That's not using
Vision
the
also
gloves.
died.
Yeah, I guess he did. I guess you would count Vision, so that's 3. But 3 out of how many?
30.
He knows specifically 30.
But then you have to. But they have to wonder. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. It's already been leaked that they're going to have a 3rd film. If Gamora is one of those legitimate deaths, how's that going to play into that movie? So hopefully they don't do a whole thing where the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 happens beforehand.
They might do that, or they can do an interesting, maybe more interesting, maybe less interesting. Maybe I just like characters in pain. Would be a story about Quill post Gamora.
I sure would love for all the movies coming up to not have taken place before Infinity War, because that feels so dumb. Like, I get Ant-Man and the Wasp happens canonically right after Civil War and leads up to him giving himself up and going under house arrest. I get that. But they shouldn't get in the habit of releasing movies out of sequence just to confuse us about who survives what.
Plays with your heartstrings.
Yeah, but so I can kind of see the Ant-Man and the Wasp. So they have this all happen, and then they kind of go back to the Ant-Man and the Wasp, kind of showing why they weren't there, because they're going to end up appearing in the 2nd film. So they kind of probably at the end they're going to hear all what happened, or they're going to see people disappear, and they're like, "Oh crap, something's happened." And then Captain Marvel, I can see being beforehand, because then not a whole ton of people like myself, unless you read a whole ton of comics, you're not really going to know much about Captain Marvel. So they need this one beforehand to explain why she's so amazing.
Okay, here's what I need. Alex makes some great points. Here's what I need. I need the Captain Marvel after credit scene to be her pager going off, and I need the post credit scenes of Ant-Man and the Wasp, the post credit scene, to have them see the rapture happening, basically.
Yeah. No, I think
that would be amazing.
Right, and I was just thinking that could be why they're releasing them out of sequence, because they didn't want spoilers in those films. Yeah. They wanted you to see it first, and then when you get through those films, see that ending scene that pulls them into the next one, and then go, I know what's going on now, not, something's going on, and you know, that's just how they wanted to do it.
Well, I don't want people to be confused and think that I was saying I'm not a fan of, or I'm upset about Ant-Man and the Wasp being out of sequence. I'm just saying I don't want it to set a precedent where all of these sequels we're getting in the next 2 years are about characters that are already dead. I don't want that to be a thing, and that would bother me more than the deaths not being permanent.
Yeah.
They probably could have it to where a significant person, even just at the end of the movie, disappears. Like for the Ant-Man, it would be the doctor dude that made the suits disappears.
Imagine what would happen with
as the lead-in,
yeah. Well, imagine what would happen with Ant-Man or the Wasp if the other one were to dissolve. Right. The result that they would have.
Yeah, that's true, but
I think we'd all be really affected if the guy shrank his lab down, said, "All right, we're moving again," and then just vanished.
Okay, so we've talked about the beginning of the film. Let's get down to Earth, and talk about the sequences that happen leading up to Spider-Man and Iron Man and Doctor Strange leaving Earth.
Yes. Which was a fun scene, actually. So this was when the spaceships began appearing in Earth's atmosphere as I guess I just kind of call them raiders, the people working for Thanos.
They do have a name. I can't remember what it is.
I'm sure they each have their own name and a backstory and a family.
They have a name too.
Thanos.
I don't know if they're exactly called Children of Thanos, but they do call themselves Children of Thanos.
People take it from different races along his conquest of wiping out half.
Well, I understand that, but that's what they call themselves.
So the Children of Thanos come down and start trying to
The
take
Black Order.
The Black Order. Didn't even recall that.
That was a fast Google search.
He's got better internet now, Joseph. So they come down and into the individual locations trying to obtain the Infinity Stones that are on Earth. Because, these stones that were created at the beginning of the universe during the Big Bang and scattered to the 6 corners of the universe, all congregate on one tiny planet in one corner of the universe.
Most of them.
Yeah, a bunch of them. We have Time, Soul. There were 3.
Half of them. Yeah.
What was the third?
Time,
Soul, and what?
No, Soul wasn't on Earth.
Yes. No, not Soul. Sorry. Mind. Time, Mind. Sorry, you're right.
Heart.
Captain Planet.
What color was it again? I think it was...
Okay, what about the ones that aren't on there? So Power wasn't on there, Space wasn't on there, and
Soul.
Reality.
Soul wasn't on there.
Reality wasn't on Earth either, so there were only 2 on Earth.
Yeah, it was just Mind.
Time and Mind.
Yeah.
I think they said that there was 2 on Earth that they had to find.
Okay. So they come down and they start wrecking up the place to draw out the stones and then try to take them from the people. So you've got the Scarlet Witch and Vision fighting in, where were they? France, Germany, some European country.
I think it was like France.
I thought, yeah, it kind of looks like France. Did they actually say where they were?
They did. I forgot. It got the really big setting at the bottom of the screen in big letters. I mean to say.
Oh yeah.
I forgot what it was. So they come down and start beating the crap out of them. Of course, they're sitting around being grotesquely lovey-dovey, and then they start getting stabbed, which made it a lot better.
And not in that way.
And then we flip over to New York, where you've got Iron Man and Spider-Man makes an appearance, and then as they try to take the Time Stone from Doctor Strange, which leads to my favorite line in the entire film, which is, "You're making me look bad in front of the wizards." as the wizards are actually kind of kicking ass against the sycophant alongside Tony Stark. I don't know what else to call him. He's sort of a wizard himself. But we did get to see a lot of good scenes with the Cloak of Levitation, which I liked. I felt like the Cloak of Levitation was a decent character in the cast, which I wasn't sure if I should expect in this film.
Speaking of the sycophant, are we ever going to get a Marvel villain, secondary character or otherwise, who isn't more powerful than the good guys and isn't outthought by the good guys, and in fact is maybe weaker and outthinks the more powerful good guys? Because the sycophant was boring.
That was actually one of my favorite lines too. When he beats him, he's like, "Yeah, well, the kid's seen more movies." But yeah, I didn't care for that character at all.
No, that's fair. It's a fair point, where you've already got the big bad guy who's the big bad guy because he is stronger than all the good guys. But then, his underlings and his dandruff are also stronger than the good guys.
His dandruff.
So then it's like, why even bother having the big bad guy if the underlings are also kicking the good guys' asses?
Yeah, every single one of them is outthought by the good guys, intentionally getting beaten.
In Wakanda, they actually outthought them as well, because they played it off as they killed off one of their people in the Black Order, but really he was going around behind them to get to Vision.
Was that him? I just thought he was another one of the sons.
Yeah, no, they
were waiting for the Scarlet Witch to leave Vision's side. They tried to press the attack, and in that scene, which is way later in the film, they pressed the attack hard to force Scarlet Witch out of the tower, and then they sneak in and try to take Vision out while he's unguarded.
So that leads sort of as a sidetracked part of the conversation. We've got a 10-minute warning from Malachi right now. What did what did the girl do with Vision where she was typing and hit enter and was proud of herself for having done so? She did something amazing that we're going to find out in the next film. What do you guys think she did?
She was sequencing and disconnecting all of his neural pathways from the Mind Stone, because they had explained that Vision himself isn't just the Mind Stone. His personality
Jarvis.
It's Jarvis, it's Banner, it's Stark,
It's Ultron.
Ultron. I thought there was one other, and then it's the Mind Stone that's just gluing them all together and giving them life. But if you reconnect the neural pathways properly, you should be able to maintain the argument that Banner and this woman made. I've forgotten her name and I feel really stupid. No, it's gone. The argument they were making was that they should be able to basically reconstruct the mind just going around the Mind Stone, not utilizing it, and it should still be able to stand on its own. The Mind Stone was able to cobble it all together, but there should be a way to do it without that.
I feel like there wasn't time to have completed that task when she was on a clock like that.
Yeah.
And it seemed like she was doing something. Maybe she just straight up did what they wanted her to do, but it almost seems like she just did a quick backup or something.
It was definitely unclear exactly how much she accomplished. One of the scenes before that did show her manually disconnecting neural pathways and recreating them like an old piping minigame from BioShock.
To me, it almost looked like she didn't get them all done. Like she left part of it still attached on purpose.
Yeah. But
her name is Shuri, by the way.
Shuri. I'm like, I know it ends in an E sound, but I couldn't remember the rest of it. Shuri.
Okay, so let's move away from the Earth sequence where boring sorcerer and boring brutes are too powerful, but they get outthought. And then we move to Stark and Spider-Man up in space, which was kind of an interesting twist I did not see coming. I did not think.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Well, I did not think that Iron Man in his Iron Man nanosuit and Spider-Man in a Spider-Man nanosuit would end up in space in a spaceship with an alien. That is not. I did not anticipate that from the trailer.
I did not see this coming. Yes, I like that. I liked how he gave him the nanosuit to protect him, and then had Friday send him back to Earth. And then when he reappears, he just says it's really intuitive. Which, I mean, come on, you're you. You made it super intuitive. You should have expected me to figure it out and get back in here. It's your fault.
Then we get to how they outsmarted the sycophant. Is that what you call it? Sycophant. Sycophant. Like the word sick. I like that. Is that a portmanteau?
Sycophant means somebody who really, really, really believes in the cause of somebody above them to the point of not really having their own personality.
Oh, I thought you were using the word sick as well.
No, it's just a second.
Because he's really good.
He's a follower. He's like the most extreme of followers.
So they outthought the alien pretty easily, but it was still a good sequence. And then they got to the planet. So then we end up with two fronts with a side story with Thor. Yeah. Anyone disagree that Thor had the best arc?
I thought that Thor was one of the most fun characters in the film.
I mean, he was the one that they paid attention to the most of the ones that they paid attention to.
He did the most. It felt like it wasn't that he had the most screen time. It was that he did the most, and as a character, he actually grew. Someone made a point earlier about development of characters, and it felt like most of just like my criticism of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we ended up with most characters where we started. The only difference being like Tony Stark invested himself so much into Spider-Man, and he said if something happened to him, he would blame himself, and then it happened, and he's going to blame himself. But everyone else just sort of ended the movie where they started.
Because we really need more psychological crushing of Tony Stark.
That guy is...
I can't believe he's still standing.
Poor Tony Stark, and he even got freaking stabbed.
He got stabbed, and all he did was he took the poly binder and just filled himself up. He's like, I'm good now.
I felt so bad for him. Even when he got stabbed, I was ready to cry for Tony Stark. It's just so much has happened to him. I felt like other than just using established relationships, the only relationship that really got developed between all of the main characters was Spider-Man and Iron Man.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that. I liked that one. They did well with that one.
And then we had Thor's growth.
Right. But it kind of goes back to that whole not enough screen time was spent with the super gang getting to know each other, having come from different parts of the universe, and then being thrown together. Like, one of the best, getting to know you scenes was, I'm Spider-Man, I'm Doctor Strange. Oh, I'm Peter Parker, I'm Doctor Strange. Oh, we're using made-up names. I'm Spider-Man.
I love that line.
It was a great line, and I fucked it up. But yeah, it was a really good one. There was a comic that I read the other day, which was great, where Strange goes on to explain that it's his real name and all of the doctorates he holds, slapping him over the head with the diplomas.
I lied. We also have a bit of development with the Hulk, although I felt like it kept going slapstick when it didn't have to. Every time there was a weight to his issue with the Hulk, it just got funny, and I wasn't laughing by the end.
Yeah.
Screw you, Hulk! I'll do it myself, asshole.
Yeah, like that would have been funnier if it hadn't been the fact that every time he has an issue turning to the Hulk, he plays it off for laughs, because that character is way too Byronic to play off everything for laughs.
Did you just call him Byronic?
Yes.
I need you to explain this term now.
The Byronic hero?
I need help.
A tragic, imperfect hero.
Oh.
A lot of the MCU is Byronic.
Okay.
Lord Byron.
Oh, I thought it was a play on the word ironic.
Like double irony. I like it. And then we're making lots of portmanteaus.
Okay. That's like
so,
wine, right?
Sure. So there's not a lot to say about what happened on Earth, other than all the things we said, because the Wakanda sequences were mostly action.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly action. It was good action. I liked the beat up Buster. No one had to slap us in the face with the fact that they had recovered it. It was cool to see the whole Buster and him trying to figure it out. And he was like, "Hey, it's actually like I'm in the big guy."
It's like being the big guy without being the big guy.
But let's talk about the alien planet. Is it Titan? It's pretty sure it's
Titan, which is odd because they didn't change the name, but they also didn't talk about where they were. And in the comics, it's Titan, literally the moon of Saturn. Like, he came from our same solar system is where Thanos came from. And that's not well established in the film. They just say, this is Titan. And you go, well, is it and then they keep calling it a planet. And so you go, okay, is it a planet that they made up called Titan, or is it Saturn's moon Titan?
It's probably just a planet called Titan, because the comics love things that are supposed to say that doesn't make any sense.
In the comics, it was Saturn's moon, though. In the movie, it wasn't well established. In the comics, it's well established that it is Saturn's moon. He comes from our source.
Either of them, personally, but I felt like, other than Thor's story arc, everything that happened on Titan was some of the best stuff. It wasn't just action. There was a lot of emotion to it.
Yeah.
And I have never had my pulse pound like it did when they were trying to nail down, they were trying to get him, Thanos, not tie him down and get the gauntlet off his hand. My heart was pumping for like 15 minutes straight.
Then Quill walks up.
And I get that Quill was upset, and I get that there was a justification for what he did. I'm not mad at Quill. I think Quill, they didn't do justice to the character to have him act quite that way. He could have waited till the gauntlet was off of his hand. But I have thoughts on that, and I feel like as soon as we get our we're out of time, we're going to talk 5 minutes about Doctor Strange. But I want to talk about just
the 5-minute warning.
We're at the 5-minute warning now.
Yes, it's been the 5-minute warning. It's been 10 minutes.
It was 5-minute warning. 4 minutes ago.
We're at time.
Yeah.
So, like, I felt like the Titan sequences were some of the most heart-pounding, good action, amazing emotion sequences. The character interaction, them working together. I was like, the reason my heart was pounding, I don't know about you guys, was I knew it was at stake, and I knew Thanos had the power to just stop what they were doing at any point if he could figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest laugh in the entire movie.
They kept using the gauntlet, and it was just that moment to moment, like.
Yeah, it was just cut to cut of them being a step ahead of him, and my heart was pounding because every time they do, I'm like, we're just seconds away from him backhanding something and ending this
and having them disintegrate.
But actually, the biggest laugh was Star-Lord giving the bird and then falling backwards into the portal.
Yes.
That was the best moment comedically in the entire movie. But then we had Iron Man had to take him on by himself and almost won. We had Doctor Strange got real close and almost won. And Star-Lord, okay, I can understand what Star-Lord did, but I feel like the reason that it was allowed to happen had to do with Doctor Strange's premonitions. Mm-hmm. You guys want to talk about Doctor Strange?
Let's
talk about Doctor Strange.
Yeah, really quick. I do want to at least point out that my biggest problem with this scene and with this final scene was that Doctor Strange had taken advantage of the time stone before Thanos showed up on Titan, where they were hanging out, to look at the several thousand possible futures.
No, millions. There's like 17 million different possibilities.
Oh, 6 million.
It was 6 million, and
he got to see 6 million. There were more than that, but he only got to see 6 million.
Yeah, it was 6,511,000, some number like that. And he looks at Tony after Tony says, "Well, how many of those futures did we win?" And he tells him 1. And so they go through the whole fight, and then at the end, he simply surrenders the time stone. God, words. He surrenders the time stone. And the only counterpoint that this made was that on the ship, he looked at Iron Man and Spider-Man and said, "Look, I need you to understand that even though we're super friends here, I am not going to give up the time stone to save either of you. If you're going to die, I'm going to let it happen in order to protect the time stone." And yet, in his final line, he says, "If you let Tony Stark live, I will give you the time stone." And he gives him the time stone. Tony Stark lives. And then Tony Stark's first reaction is to turn to him and say, "Why the hell did you do that?" And it's like, dude, it was like 20 minutes ago that you asked how many futures you wanted, and he said 1. And you know this guy wouldn't have done it unless it was something that needed to happen to line you up with the 1 where you won.
Part of that is a lot of times, let's say you were able to go back in time and tell yourself what your career would be. Sometimes the future is built on the work we put into it. And telling yourself something from the future and going back in the past might affect the way in which you behave. Mm-hmm. Like, what if you have a career built off of things that you learned over 10 years of time that were in different areas that had nothing to do with your career but built you into that knowledge? If you said in 10 years from now you're going to have this job, you might prevent yourself from putting that work into it. It was important that they all tried so that they would get to this certain outcome. And I feel like it was part of the plan for Iron Man not to be fully cognizant of the fact that there was a plan in the works besides the plan that he had.
Uh-huh.
So I think he's going to, at some point, he's got to, because he's smart enough, maybe even moments after the disillusion of all his friends, he's got to realize, once the shock of Spider-Man being gone, that this was all part of the plan. He was even told, "We're in the end game now." And you make a good point that
he didn't have to figure it out. The guy
for it to be flipped on its head like that, he had to have taken notice.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just my problem with it, is that Tony Stark is billed as like the smartest human on Earth. And when this happened, he didn't immediately go, right, the one where we win. He immediately said, "This guy's throwing away our one chance at winning to save my life? What the heck?" Right after he told me that he wouldn't do that, I didn't think this guy was sentimental. I mean, why would you go there? But he did. He clearly did.
I was actually confused for a moment as well, and I was like, oh, well, he's got a plan. And apparently that plan didn't involve them getting the gauntlet off of Thanos' hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he knew they wouldn't.
There's one of two possibilities there. Either they had this side story of him knowing how they're going to win, and they also had them almost get the gauntlet off of his hand, and Star-Lord stopped the plan, or that's all one big thing where he allowed Star-Lord to stop it, even knowing he was going to stop them from getting the gauntlet, because that wasn't going to be a winning line.
I mean, so it is like what you said. The future is built on the work we put into it. So you know that Doctor Strange saw how the entire sequence plays out, and he knows that in the end they win. But all these other things have to happen to get there. So even though he knew they wouldn't get the gauntlet off of him, no matter how hard they fought, he still had to fight to make sure that certain other things happened.
I agree with you. It's just it feels like people are still mad at Star-Lord, completely ignoring the fact that if Doctor Strange thought that would ruin the plan, he wouldn't have allowed it.
Yeah.
It was just Star-Lord being Star-Lord. He's super emotional. Like, he had a dance-off with his first villain.
I love that they suggested he try it again. Footloose. Is it still the greatest movie ever?
So there's a lot more I want to talk about with you guys, but we are at our time limits.
Way past.
Maybe it'll trickle into future episodes of the podcast. It'll have to, because there's plenty more. Let's just the fact that this is brief. You guys could all give like 30 seconds of additional thoughts. My 30 seconds of additional thoughts is it felt like at times I was not in the same movie from scene to scene. I heard one reviewer say it seemed like we were jumping from different scenes of different TV shows. And it wasn't just the art style was completely different. It was also the writing was completely different. Like when Thor was hanging out with the Guardians, he was buffoonic in his humor. And the Guardians had their own specific humor. And it felt like, I actually pulled up IMDb. It felt like during the Guardians of the Galaxy scenes that perhaps James Gunn, who's their director, came in and sort of punched up their dialogue to make it more Guardians-esque.
He did.
Whereas the Russo brothers, he did? Okay.
Yeah, they had him on set for those.
It kind of felt like a Guardians movie in those scenes, although I felt like they kind of went overboard even for a Guardians movie with the humor. Additional thoughts just being that it just continually felt like a different movie every time we changed scenes. Tristan, additional thoughts?
My additional thoughts is still going to come straight back to Thanos, in that, again, because this was something I wanted to point out earlier, they kept coming back to Thanos, showing scenes from his past and what he was doing to try and justify his genocide of half the universe, to say he's saving people by killing them. And I thought it was incredibly poignant that the only person in the entire film, everyone in the universe that he talks to, who says, I get you. Your goals are truly honorable, and the effort you've put in should be rewarded. And, people just don't understand when great men have to make hard decisions. Was the Nazi. Was that they go to the planet where the Soul Stone is held, and Red Skull, of all people, meets them and says, yes, here's what you have to do to get the Soul Stone. I hope you reach your goals. They sound great. Like, at the same time, I wanted to pull it into when he's talking to Gamora and says, I will save the universe by killing half the people so that there will be enough resources for everybody. And then I will, sit and watch the sunrise over a grateful galaxy. And at the end of and he tells her that, ever since I came to your planet and saved them by killing half the population, everyone goes to bed fed, everyone's happy, and it's a great place to be. It's no longer people starving and awful. And then the last scene in the film is he's sitting on her planet watching the sunrise over his grateful galaxy. And it's very, very clear that there was no one on that planet. So he's living in this delusion. He has completely deluded himself into thinking that he is saving people by destroying them, and not just destroying them.
Are we sure that there was nobody on that planet? Because it looked like he was kind of in just like a not populated area.
So the reason that it's her planet is because the spot that he's sitting on is the city that he took her from, and it's completely overgrown, like just completely returned to the wild.
Yeah, I just didn't
That's a great point.
too much.
I'm going to add to that point and then let Alex and Malachi have their say on what they want to add as their last minute thoughts. But I didn't even notice that, Tristan, but I did notice he was by himself and he was smiling. I felt like many people made the point, and I agreed with, that this was at the end Thanos' movie. That's why it was like Thanos will return and all of that. And I would love to see in the next movie his delusions come crashing down around him, for him to finally realize he's not all that, and to see the full fury of the characters that he's pissed off, then realize he was wrong.
Not to belabor it, but the Titan must fall.
Yeah, I want to see him realize he was wrong and realize he's delusional if he's going to sit in the ruins of a city he thought he saved and smile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Alex the Malachi.
I don't really have too much to add other than the fact that, because there were so many characters, not all of them really got their deserved time that I thought that they should have. And I guess I was thinking, like, playing off the fact that Thanos didn't come up with these other things to do other than killing half the population. I read something after I'd watched it earlier, and someone was like, Thanos has this plan, but does anyone ever debate with him hey, why don't you do instead increase the resources or not? Instead, their only answer is, I don't want to die. So that's my take.
Fair point. Okay.
I guess I will talk about the ending. That's my final point. Is Tristan mentioned earlier, it's I would him wiping out as many heroes as they did. It thins out the cast and will hopefully add more screen time before they add everyone back. And one thing, it was kind of cool to get that kind of ending to where it wasn't, everything's okay now ending, which is a nice change. But I would like to see still some punishment for everything that happened, because if there is no repercussion for everything that happens, it's kind of well, then why did it happen in the first place, So I see why they did it. I see that they did it to extend the franchise, and I thought it was a nice change.
All right, Malachi, what's it time for at this point?
It's time to get the flip out of here, homies.
All right, good night, homies.
That time.
Thanks for listening.
SPOILERCAST, the Forever Cast. # goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks to the following patrons for making this video possible. Support us at patreon.com/player4podcast.